guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm gonna be reacting to a video called Why European Trucks Have Up to 770 horsepower and US don't. I'm guessing HP means horsepower, but actually I'm not that sure. But yeah, I think obviously it's gonna be with like engines and stuff like that, so I'm guessing it's horsepower. But yeah, I don't really know anything about this subject, so I'm very excited to learn more about it. So let's check it out and comment, like, and subscribe.
Have you ever wondered why trucks in the US seem to have smaller engines that are less powerful than the ones in Europe? After all, most things do seem to be bigger in the US than in most places in the world, right? So how is it that engines end up being smaller? While the engines in the US seem to have 605 horsepower capacity and 2,050 pound-feet of torque as their maximum, European engines have 750 and 770 HP engines with up to 3,700 pound-feet of torque. Wondering why that is? Torque? Well, there are several reasons why the engines in Europe are somewhat larger than the ones you find in the US. Despite the trucks in America being much larger in size than their European counterparts.
Are they actually bigger?
Could it just be the whim of the manufacturers in each region, or are there external factors such as landscape or the weight of the goods being hauled? Let's dive in and find out why European trucks have way more powerful engines than American ones. Before we begin, let's make it clear that trucks don't even need that much horsepower. It's mainly the amount of torque that an engine can generate that helps the truck haul all that load for thousands of miles.
I have to say, I'm a little bit lost. I don't know what torque means. So I know it's something having to do with an engine, but I don't really know like the mechanics of it all. I don't really know anything about this. If it's a physics thing, I don't know. Clearly didn't pay much attention at school.
As long as the engine's crankshaft keeps churning, more torque will be produced, more force will be applied, and the truck will be able to perform more work. Mind you though, the value of torque is measured in Newton meters in Europe and in pound-feet in the United States. Another factor you might want to look at is the landscape of geographical features of the US and Europe. It might not surprise you to learn that the roads in Europe and the US differ quite a lot. However, it will come as a surprise that the US terrain has a lot of flat surfaces. Of course, there are many hills and mountains in the United States, but the wide and smooth roads along interstate highways are flat and easy to maneuver as truckers haul their loads across the country. This doesn't go to say that their terrains are better than Europe, but it definitely does make driving easier. On the contrary, roads across most of Europe can be more challenging. Many roads in Europe branch out into smaller roads. Others are hilly and have very sharp inclines, which means you'll have to change gears and speeds quite often when driving. These sharp changes in elevation within just a few hundred meters can also be one of the reasons why European manufacturers produce engines with more torque and more horsepower capacity than those that we come across in the US. Yet another defining factor for the engine power difference could be the difference in weight being hauled in the US and Europe. In the United States, there appears to be little need for a powerful engine because not only are the roads flat, but the federal weight limit that a single truck can carry in the United States is 80 tons. So you can't have more than that set limit goods on your truck at once. And believe it or not, an engine with 2,500 Newton meters of torque can handle that quite easily with absolutely no strain or compromise in its performance. On the contrary, the maximum weight limit varies within the EU. While there isn't one set number, it can be anywhere from 60 to 90 to 104 tons, depending on the type of truck or the axles it might have. So for weights above 80 tons, you need an engine with a higher torque than 2,500 Newton meters. The torque needed for American trucks. Couple this with the hilly roads of Europe and it becomes a tad bit more apparent why the engines in Europe are more powerful than those in the US. As such, the major manufacturers of engines in the US trucking market include Mack, Detroit Cummings, and PACCAR. And the strongest engine you'd find in the US right now is the Detroit DD15, a 14.8-liter engine that has the capacity to generate 1,550 to 1,750 pound-feet of torque and 400 to 505 horsepower. That being said, you'd find that many, if not most, of the engines in the US are 12 to 15-liter engines that generate 400 to 550 horsepower. In contrast, the European engine manufacturers, which include Mercedes, MAN, DAF, Renault, Volvo, Iveco, and perhaps more popularly known, Scania, have been known to make more powerful engines with horsepower ranging between 440 and 640 HP, with the most powerful ones being produced by Volvo and Scania. The Volvo D16K, which is known as the world's strongest 6-liter engine, produces 750 horsepower and 3,550 Nm worth of torque, while the Scania V8, which is even bigger and more powerful than the Volvo D16K, has a 770 horsepower capacity and 3,700 Nm worth of torque. That being said, it's interesting to note that some of these American and European manufacturers actually work together. For example, Volvo, Mack, and Scania share their engine parts and information concerning technology with one another.
Okay, so
you could say that while these engines may differ in power, they might not be that different after all when it comes to how they've been built. With that, it's clear that there are several factors leading up to the engines in Europe being more powerful. In fact, the more you look into it, the more justified it seems that European engines are stronger than American ones. And until the weight restrictions of the landscape of the US changes, which is highly unlikely, this will probably stay this way. Well, that's a wrap for this video. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to never miss any of our future updates. Till then, goodbye.
Okay, this was very interesting. I think I didn't really understand the thing about horsepower and force and torque. Again, I don't really have a clue about all of that. But I do have to say, I think in my idea, I know that the liters are just a B8 or B6 engine. I think that's what it means. I think the more a B6 engine probably is more powerful than a B5 or a B4. I think, again, don't really know much about cars, and I know even less about engines, but I think that's sort of what it means, in a very rustic explanation. So I think that the horsepower, I think it doesn't have to do with, because I was looking at the video and I was like, does it mean actually speed? But I don't think it has to do with speed. The horsepower is actually how strong can the car be? And obviously I think when you're looking at a car, I think it's more important to see what kind of speed does it go to? But I think when it comes to actual trucks that obviously have to carry load, I don't really know how important it is that they actually go to some super high speed, because your need is I wanted to actually have the capacity to actually handle 80 pounds, 800 pounds to 300 pounds. And again, a little unclear how many pounds. I think it's just, no, it's tons, right? It's not pounds, it's tons. Well, whatever. It's just I don't know, 800 kilograms, whatever. So that's gonna be the emphasis on, and it's not gonna be as much as how fast can it be? And how much load can those trucks have? I think that's the thing that's measured, actually, horsepower. Although I do know that cars in general do have horsepower as well. That's obviously something that's measured. But I don't really know why people don't pay that much attention to it, or maybe that's just me, and maybe I just pay attention to the speed. But maybe I think people that know about cars are obviously going to be looking at the horsepower as well. Although again, I don't really know why would you care that much about the horsepower in a regular car, because again, I could see why you would care if you're buying a truck, because again, you want to be able I want my truck to be handle that, but that what I want to move. But obviously in cars, maybe it's going to be your car is gonna have less trouble going uphill, maybe, because obviously when you're going on a very steep uphill, your car is you're feeling you're pushing the car, and you're oh my god, this car is just so it doesn't stop, but you're feeling it goes like this, and it takes such a long time. And of course, when you're driving a truck, it's going to be even more, because obviously the car is going to be super heavy. Well, not the car, the vehicle is going to be very heavy. So of course, that's where the horsepower comes in. And of course, in Europe, like they mentioned, it has a lot of uphills. I know that obviously not all throughout Europe is like that, but I think in general, again, in the US, obviously they also have hills and mountains, but they mentioned, but most of the highways, not to say, I think, 80% of the highways in the US are just flat. It's just very flat terrain. And obviously trucks, that's the main part. They're just going to be driving there. And of course the roads are very big. The lanes are big. The roads themselves are big, and the highway itself. And in Europe, it's true, because I hadn't really thought of this. It's yes, of course, the roads in Europe, not the highways, but when you're getting into the actual city, the roads tend to be very small, very narrow. And I don't really know why. I mean, obviously they need different things. I don't really know how much the horsepower comes in when it's a narrow road, but I think it's probably a little bit harder to maneuver your truck over there, because obviously driving a truck, I think is very obviously you have to learn how to drive one of these things. It's not easy. Well, I don't know if it looks easy. I don't think it looks easy. I've never thought it looked easy, but I know that there's like a lot of things involved in actually driving one of these things. And it's not the same thing driving just flat terrain in long stretches where everything's straight to where you have to drive into this very narrow streets. And I don't know, obviously you have to like downshift or something. Again, I don't really know. I only drive automatic. I don't drive manual. So again, it's like even more confusing, but I do kind of know the basics, and you have to like downshift and stuff when there's like a very curvy road. I'm imagining something, again, like something like, not the Alps, but like places along the Alps are very like places that have like a lot of like a mountain range. These trucks have to be able to like, oh, I have to carry like this load, and it's like very curvy, very narrow, and very like super uphill. So of course you need a very good truck to be able to drive this. But it's funny that they're thinking, you know, they were mentioning like all the famous brands in Europe, probably the most famous or very known brands in Europe that make trucks. And I think those are probably the most known like worldwide, I have to say. But I think in the US probably it's like the Mack truck. That's probably the most famous one. But I think you can also find like people actually, I don't know if that's the case, but I think people in the US actually like export them and bring them in from Europe. They think like something like even Volvo or Mercedes, like they actually like they have those trucks over there. So is it a thing of like do they make adjustments, or just like buy it because the quality is better? Do they just don't care? It's like I prefer to have like the horsepower, even if maybe it's not something I'm gonna need actually, because again, it's a superior truck that maybe doesn't really, I'm never gonna, you know, push it to the limit, but I like it because I like this brand. I like the engine. I don't know what sort of things go into, but I would love to know if they actually like make some adjustments in the engine when they are importing like those trucks, or if no, what I'm saying is totally false. People in the US only tend to drive when they're buying trucks or they're driving trucks. They try to always go local, and they always buy like local like companies, and they don't really export them. But I'm pretty sure that's, you know, that's not the case, because I'm pretty sure that Mercedes is like a pretty famous like brand of trucks like all over the world. So do they make adjustments, or they just don't care of like having a superior engine in this place that maybe I'm not gonna need it, but I like having it just in case. But of course it's not gonna be a necessity. I don't think the opposite happens of like the US like exports trucks to the European Union and to countries over there, because obviously your truck's not going to measure well. It's like, no, obviously the load, like I'm going to go slower. I'm going to have to push my truck in order to carry all this load, because like they mentioned, like the regulations, like they're different, it varies by country, but it depends. But usually they can carry like more weight. I'm wondering also why that's the case, because if most countries in the European Union and in Europe have, again, all these like difficult roads, and it's like it's steeper and stuff, wouldn't they be the opposite? Wouldn't they want, no, we need like we need like fewer weight in our trucks? Like, shouldn't it be the opposite? Why the US, if it's all a flat terrain, actually like has more regulations on the weight? I would love to know the answer to that. Is it like a government, a bureaucracy thing? But because maybe they should change it. I don't know. The US should change it and maybe like just put more load over there. Like, who cares, right? Maybe it's because in Europe, like they want you. I don't know. They actually, I can't even think of like a good explanation for it. It's just like weird to me that if the roads are like more difficult, then why do they have to carry more weight? Maybe they are the ones that have to do the regulation actually. But like, no, you know, lower it. Maybe people are gonna be that happy, because obviously when you're trucking trucks, it's more like, you know, huge, like, I don't know, vegetables, produce, or just like industrial things that people need for building houses. I don't know. People are going to be too happy of like, oh no, there's scarcity because the truck carries less load. So it's not going to get to, you know, the place that I need it to be. I don't know. Maybe it has to do with that. But this was very interesting. I think it was, again, for someone very, very well explained, I think, for someone that doesn't really understand much about the trucks and the engines. And also, I think I have to say, I'm looking at the engine because I know obviously like the engine of a car is very different, even though I think engines in cars tend to be like probably bigger. At least for me, I think it's bigger than I would have think, like, because, you know, when you're seeing an engine, it's like this, but it's like, no, I think engines tend to be like, they're more like this in a sedan, and it's always like bigger than I expect. And in a truck like this, I can't even imagine like how much does the engine actually like weigh. And how physically, like how big is it? Like I'm imagining something that weighs a ton and it's like a very large dog. Like, I don't know, like if you put it like on the ground, does it like hit you like at hip level? I'm imagining something like this. Like I'm imagining like this insane and massive engines, because again I'm seeing them and it's like, wow, it looks crazy. It looks like a thing that actually like weighs a lot, and of course like it's very big. But of course you also, like, I get it, like you need something big in order for it to be able to handle all that weight. So of course it makes sense to me, but I would like to see how big is it actually and how much does it weigh. Maybe it's not something that you can carry or that two people can carry. I think it's more like when they're pulling it out, like to make repairs, you have to actually have a machine that actually does it, because it's way too heavy. I don't know, but I think this is very interesting, and that was it for today, and I'll see you soon. Bye.